Another stop, another stop in my solo trip around Colombia was the I'm talking tiny and remote town of San Andres de Piscimbala. Folks, this was a trip getting there, as in sitting on the back of a flatbed truck, winding up muddy, mountainous dirt roads, and swerving around that day's destruction by landslides during a heavy rainy season that had covered the road in front of us just hours before. We'd frequently be perched at a 90-degree angle, driving around the base of a pile of fallen earth that sat just as the edge of a cliff face the now destroyed road had been built upon. This angle forced your face and eyes in only one direction, down, and with clear view of how this road could kill you, either from the falling dirt and stones from the landslides above, or by slipping off of this new mound of dirt, off the road, off the cliff, and into the roaring and distant river below. The locals could see my unease and had fun with me. I can't remember the name of the town I caught the truck in, but the bus station was an alley in between a hardware store and a cafe where a scantily dressed Colombian woman was selling beers out of a cooler, fending off a lot of approaches from midday drunk Colombian men, and selling tickets for seats in the back of the pickup trucks that serviced all the surrounding communities. The driver, when he took my bag, sarcastically apologized to me that there wouldn't be dinner service on the bus, which resulted in the whole crowd of people laughing at me and brought me unwanted attention. Soon after that, I was surrounded by well-meaning people aggressively asking me questions about why I was there, what I was doing, and if I was rich. A drunk lady in her 70s, a 4-foot-tall grandma pulling a shopping cart, offered to suck my dick for $1. I'll leave it up to you to guess whether I took her up on that or not. So once on the road, I was kind of glad to be out of the public eye. The trip was nauseating, nothing but switchbacks and hills through the Andes, but the scenery was beautiful, and the other passengers were very amiable, and we joked about the ride the whole way. Something about shared suffering always takes the edge off of said suffering. And upon arriving into the beautiful and tiny village, my host at the one hotel in town informed me that the landslides had killed power to the village. There had been no electricity for 5 days now, and they didn't know if it would be restored anytime soon. So it was a good thing I brought batteries. But the time spent there was made all the better for not having my electrified diversions. The small town is literally just 4 main streets, intersecting with each other to form a square, out of which sprout spiraling and ascending sparse dirt roads, which wind up the mountainsides to supply a community, which numbered in the hundreds at best. And I became quick friends with the family who owned the corner store 3 houses down from the hotel, depending on them for beer and snacks. And again, light mockery had served to ease the tension and endear myself to the locals when I entered the store and asked if they had bloqueador, sunblock, for my pale white skin high in the mountains where the sun is more direct and penetrating. And as the owner apologized and said no, an indigenous lady in line shouted out, "What the hell is bloqueador?" And then the whole room burst out into laughter when I told her it was gringo medicine because white people are allergic to the sun. And I had a particularly drunken night with the adult son of the shop owner. The son was a truck driver who risked his life daily driving a big rig all around the dangerous muddy mountain roads to transport wood and gravel for processing by industry. He'd walked into the shop one night with the exact same leaf spring suspension I'd seen destroyed on my school bus many years back during my days touring and super happy fun time and living on a bus. And I was able to identify that leaf spring instantly by name and brand, and what resulted after was hours and hours of slamming back beers, laughing about engine failure, exchanging tales of breakdowns, and this was all the frequent sips. Eventually the beers changed into sips off of the strong and popular, and I'm talking strong, locally made liquor, aguardiente. And we listened to American rock music the whole night. Truckers, no matter what country or what culture, they all love classic rock, and this guy was no exception. I had to spend hours in a drunken haze translating lyrics by Bryan Adams and Whitesnake into Spanish. And the night ended abruptly with the arrival of his family, who I discovered he'd been ignoring frequent phone calls and texts from, telling him to come home and tend to his responsibilities. His young daughter of 10 stormed in, got right in my face, and pointed her 2 fingers at me, and she said in Spanish, "I've got my eye on you." while her grandparents, the shop-owning folks, they just rolled on the floor in laughter. They were loving it. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. And, man, mom and daughter were pissed that this gringo showed up and got their dad drunk on a work night. Well, all was well, and this sudden end to festivities ensured I wouldn't have too bad of a hangover for the following day's hike. And the hike was to the surrounding archaeological sites of Tierradentro, something like 5 or 6 excavated portions of the mountain that contain hundreds upon hundreds of stone tombs dug out of the volcanic rock deposited there millions of years before. Tombs of a completely unknown and forgotten culture who left no buildings, no pyramids, no megalithic stones, scant art or ceramics, but they were obsessed with building these strong, deep, and decorated tombs. Underground, everywhere around San Andres de Pisambala, are these crazy boot-shaped tombs. They're all similar, a straight and deep central shaft, and then a room built off the side of the shaft, resulting in this space having a shape like a boot. So let's walk down one and look inside. The whole area is mountainous, and the mountains are made of hard volcanic stone. Digging through the earth, once hitting stone, these people would carve out these deep vertical tunnels and then their adjacent room. The room would be painted with geometric patterns and decorated with a few statues as well. The bodies of the dead would be interred in ceramic pots. Sometimes they were cremated, sometimes partially cremated, or not at all. And numerous pots containing numerous bodies would be placed in these rooms. And though this culture left no buildings, temples, written language, or hieroglyphics, these tombs show us that they still had a highly complex and stratified society with nobles, priests, kings, and warriors, due to the complexity or riches presented in various burials, signifying layers that this person occupied in the social strata. But they just weren't concerned with earthly things, such as temples or megalithic stoneworks or art like other cultures to the south, the Inca, the Youre, and such, were. They lived in basic houses. They slept in these communal longhouses. They were farmers, hunters, and fishermen. And they thrived in the area from around 500 AD until 1300 AD when they disappeared. They took off, leaving unfinished tombs and sculptures in their wake. And it's a wonderful hike. If you go there, you find the entrance. It's a small museum and courtyard, and you buy a ticket with an area for punch holes to signify what sites you visited around the area. And you're free to hike everywhere surrounding the archaeological site in the mountains as much as you wish, where a local guide at the entrance to each site of tombs checks your ticket and punches a hole for each spot visited. One guy is not so funny. When you go to his spot, he tries bad humor, telling you that you bought the wrong ticket and they have to turn around and go back and do the long hike again. I usually maintain my composure. I'm a tourist and a guest in a foreign country, but I laid into this guy. I was not in the mindset to take a joke. I was probably hungover from the aguardiente. And this is all easily done in a day. More enjoyable if you take 2 days, as I did, which allows for taking the much longer and farther trails out of town and into the surrounding indigenous communities. The people of these communities who are quite welcoming to me. They offered me sodas and snacks and pointed me in the right direction to visit the tombs. And of the 5 known sites at Tierradentro, there are surely hundreds more waiting to be discovered. In my time hanging out with the locals, they'd all tell me stories of farmers stumbling across tombs in their land or even in their backyards. If not for these discoveries, you wouldn't know these tombs were there. Their homes and above-ground structures were made of straw, mud, and wood and decomposed quickly, and there's nothing left. So looking about the mountains, one would not know that there's thousands upon thousands of deep stone tombs lying just beneath the soil. So I highly recommend visiting San Andres de Pisambala and the tombs of Tierradentro. You won't go there, but I recommend it nonetheless.
Entertainment.